Brett Cooper Show.
Recognized in the New York Times this year as one of the top conservative voices young people are listening to online. Brett Cooper.
I wanted to reach young people in general, but I specifically wanted to talk to young women. We've been lied to by the Kardashian-type figures that have given us beauty standards that are completely unrealistic, that have told us that the ideal is to be plastic, that you need to change everything about yourself to be desirable. Women are looking around going, oh my gosh, what we've been told and fed for the last 20, 30 years, none of this makes sense. We need to take a step back. This is, what I'm doing. I believe in this. I believe in the institution of marriage. Like, I'm so excited. This is where my life begins. The number one thing that I've always wanted to be is my mom. That is the best thing I could do. Empower people with information so that when they are consuming content, when they're consuming social media, it's not blind. Embrace gratitude, stay grounded and rooted in your values, be a good person, and build a rich community. This is so cool. You guys are so amazing. Thank you for having me. Okay, so this is such a full circle moment for me. I don't know if you guys know this, but 4 years ago, I came to the 2021 YWLS conference, and it was my first ever political event. And it was right here at the Gaylord. And I haven't been back since, which made me so sad. And so I'm so excited to be here and be speaking. And it's just very, very surreal. And it's so special because I remember sitting in this exact audience and listening to speakers and feeling so inspired and so transformed. I actually came to YWLS with a couple of girls that I had met on Instagram, because I had left my sorority and had no friends. I was desperate for community, and we spent the entire weekend bouncing around between breakout sessions and meeting incredible people, and I became so close with one of those girls that she ended up being my bridesmaid 3 years later. So I hope that you have had a similarly transformative and empowering experience in the same way that I did, and I hope that you made incredible friends, because who knows what will come from your time at YWLS. Now, I have grown a lot, and I've changed a lot over the last 4 years since I was last here. And there's another moment in my life that stands out to me as being particularly impactful as a young woman finding my voice and my identity in this very odd modern society. And that was a conversation that my mom and I had when I was 15 years old. It is the conversation that will forever stick in my memory. Now, at 15 years old, like most 15-year-olds, I was very lost, and I was very confused. So if you are also 15 years old, just know I see you, I feel it. And I was living in Los Angeles, and the female role models and the friends that surrounded me were anything but ideal. The girlfriends that I had were vapid. They were highly sexual and promiscuous, even at 15 years old, even starting at 13 years old. And I hated that. And that made me incredibly uncomfortable. I knew that that was never what I wanted to be. I hated the idea of being perceived in that way. I had a strong enough, moral compass to know that that was not what was going to bring me lasting fulfillment and happiness. But the only alternative that I saw wasn't ideal for me either. It wasn't attractive to who I was at the time. Because I saw more traditional femininity, unfortunately, as something that was weak. And I looked down upon it. It was something that I, as a very athletic, very tomboyish teenage girl, could not even fathom relating to. I was on a snowboarding team. I shot guns. I was a competitive rock climber. I was like, oh my God, no, I don't want to wear dresses. Here I am now. But I genuinely could not even wrap my brain around that. I mean, it just felt like a complete and utter betrayal of who I was. And I saw nothing in the middle. And so as a result, I ran with the guys. And I have 3 older brothers, so it came naturally to me. But I didn't just do that. I physically tried to make myself as masculine as possible. I was angry, I was angsty, I wore all black, I would like stomp around in my Doc Marten boots, hating everything, not wanting to be around any women, and I turned my nose up at these ridiculous women who surrounded me. Like any grace that I had obtained from 10 years of classical ballet, I was actively rejecting, because I just hated everything about the type of womanhood that I had seen. And my mom, because she's incredible, she noticed all of this. And so on one car ride home after a particularly angsty outing with all of my guy friends, she pulled the car over, which if you have a mother, you know that that means it's serious. I was like, oh crap, here we go. And she said, we need to talk about this. And she said, you know, you can be both. Strength and femininity are not mutually exclusive. Ambition and womanhood can go hand in hand, and being a girl who cares about looking pretty and being attractive to the boys that you have crushes on at 15 years old does not make you promiscuous like the girls that you are seeing online or in your friend group. And it seems so simple in hindsight. I'm like, yeah, Brett, obviously. But her comments were earth-shattering to my 15-year-old mind. Like, I could not see the nuance between these two extremes that I had in my head. And again, to this day, that remains the most impactful conversation that my mother and I ever had. And it, of course, did not change overnight. I didn't suddenly go, oh, I'm going to wear dresses, and it's going to be great. But over time, I did find strength in my femininity. I found the nuance. I found where I fit into this odd world, and my confidence finally returned, the confidence that I had lost at 15 years old. And I would love to say that this problem of offering women very binary extremes has long faded, but that unfortunately is not the case, and it stems back way further than me at just 15 years old. And we often talk about the boy crisis, which I think is very important, rightfully so. That is a good conversation to have. But there is also a girl crisis that we are facing that I think often gets ignored. The fact that 1 in 4 women are on some kind of psychiatric medication. The fact that teenage girls are twice as likely to experience clinical depression and anxiety. The fact that they are more likely to experience gender dysphoria, significantly more likely to self-harm. That women's happiness has been on a steady decline since the 1970s. That marriage and birth rates have plummeted, while the number of women on OnlyFans and doing sex work continues to rise. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for this crisis, many of them related to faith and health and lifestyle, which have all been discussed this weekend. I've been watching all the speeches. But I do believe that the root cause of this is something that we are actively still navigating, and it is something that even the political right has not been able to nail down. And that is the way that we advise and we speak to and we pressure and we shame women for their identities and their choices. And I truly believe that this has created a psychological crisis that we are still trying to come back from. Feminists and the left, in my opinion, I think probably in your opinion as well, made a grave error when they chose to champion this girl boss corporate idea that a woman's value and her happiness existed only in her work. But not just that. It wasn't just about loving your work. They said that women who chose alternative paths were less than. They weren't feminist enough. They were an arm of the patriarchy. They were living under this oppressive, sexist system that only their benevolent feminist friends were able to see and understand. And my mom, who I adore, you guys know, is my biggest role model. She was a victim of that. She was actively alienated from her highly successful, highly academic friends and family who, from their corner offices and university lecture halls, mocked her and shamed her relentlessly for her choices for years. My brothers are 12 and 15 years older than me, and it went on from when they were born to even as I was growing up. And if you go to her Facebook page, even today, you will still see her job title that she listed as superhero at mom. And it literally makes me want to tear up, because that was her small way of fighting back against the years of mockery that she had endured for walking away from New York City and academia to focus on her children, to follow her dream of being a mother. Yeah. And she's obviously not alone. Years and years of these pervasive, divisive attitudes left so many women disillusioned and lost, unhappy with their lives, unfulfilled by the empty promises of modern feminism in corporate America, especially when it came to millennial women, which I think we've all seen the polling. We know how they're doing. Those are the impacts that we're dealing with. But I really don't need to tell you all of that. I think that that is something that has obviously been discussed a lot on this stage even. It is something we debate and talk about constantly. And there's a new layer of this that I think we're dealing with right now. Because in response to all of that, that is where the trad wife aesthetic and idea came to be so popular. And you might kind of cringe at that because I'm intentionally using the word aesthetic because that is how it started. It began with unique and aspirational and aesthetically pleasing content that offered women a positive glimpse into another world, a world that was slower and softer and arguably way more grounded and prioritized motherhood in a way that they had never seen prioritized in the media. And unsurprisingly, after years of having the alternative shoved down our throats relentlessly, being mocked for making choices like that, this more traditional, historical idea of womanhood and motherhood took off. And very quickly, understandably, the right kind of took this on as their own. Like, this was the way, finally, that we could actively champion more traditional values and finally uplift women who chose to be mothers, who are the backbone of our society. And this is the way that we could celebrate happy and healthy marriages and homes. And that is objectively a good thing. But unfortunately, it did not stop there. Because now, when I go online, I often see something that is as polarizing and puritanical as what the left was doing years ago. It is now something that is fueled by anger and shame and resentment. Women who are mothers, who have children, and continue to work, women like Caroline Levitt, who I think we all can agree is incredible, get relentlessly ripped to shreds online by people who I think would agree with most of us on policy and politics. Podcasters like my dear friend Allie Beth Stuckey, who I know you guys all adore, they call Allie Beth Stuckey secretly a feminist because she still has a vocation outside of the home, because she does such important work with her books and her podcast. Allie Beth, of all people. Young women online are mocked for not yet finding a husband, and possibly, worst of all, women who are not able to have children are told that their life will forever lack meaning. Is that really the message that we want to be sending out to the world? Like, these are not exaggerations. These are posts that I see. These are emails that I receive about my life and others. These are posts that I get tagged in from you guys who see them and feel disillusioned. Meanwhile, as all of that is going on, so many of the women who drive this idea and this beautiful lifestyle online literally work full-time promoting it. Some of them run multi-million-dollar businesses based on this idea and this aesthetic. This is how they market it. Bad actors and grifters also jumped on the opportunity to change up their content based on the changing cultural tides, understandably, often turning something that was so morally good and simple and beautiful into a caricature and a fetish. That is not healthy. And this is what so many young women are being put up against now as the new standard of what we have to do. And otherwise, we're not really traditional. Otherwise, we're not really conservative. Otherwise, we're not really living like biblical women. And while I think right now a lot of these extremes are a bit, fringe, and they live in our weird kind of digital social media ecosystem, that is also how the girl boss, lean-in style of feminism started so many years ago. And we all saw the way that that turned out. So I'm trying to help us avoid that. But when I look at this content and this commentary, I have to ask, is this not creating the same exclusionary black and white framework that caused a psychological crisis to begin with? Because based on what people online call the proper ideal form of womanhood and motherhood now, my mother would have been excluded from that as well. They would have mocked her because, yes, she did leave corporate America to dedicate her life to her 4 children, but she also never stopped engaging in her passions and her work outside of the home. It did look different, though. She opened a cooking school that she ran for so many years. She moonlighted as a camp director for a couple of seasons. She literally created and ran every single extracurricular club and organization that my brothers and I were involved in. She helped friends start businesses. She wrote for the local newspaper no matter where we were living. And when my older brother tragically died, she created and became the president of our state's largest grief organization that she ran for years. She's amazing. And she did all of that while being the most intentional, dedicated homeschool mom I have ever met. She did all of that without ever having a homestead. She did that much later in life. She did that without wearing the milkmaid sundresses. She did all of that without baking sourdough every single day. You don't have to do that, I promise. My sourdough starter is dead in my fridge. It'll come back one day, and I'll make those TikToks for you. And yet, even though she doesn't line up perfectly against those standards that we now see online, I think she could probably run circles around those influencers, probably like most of your moms as well. And in my mind, my mother, and I'm sure so many of your moms and the moms that are out there, you are the embodiment of what it means to really be a mother, to be a Proverbs 31 woman who is strong and hardworking and compassionate, is a dedicated homemaker and raises children, but is similarly engaged as a contributing member of her society and her community. Somebody who cannot be defined by just one job or trait. A woman who isn't and can't be confined to things that are based on hashtags and slogans and the ideas, the fleeting ideas of socio-political movements, because her motivation and her dedication and her love run so much deeper than that. And now some people might think that I'm crazy for getting up here at a conservative women's conference and saying all of this, sort of attacking what the right, online at least, has sort of started to glamorize. But I think it's important to say this because I know that personally I fall somewhere between these two extreme binaries that we have been presented with. And I'm sure that many of you do as well. And my goal here is not to say that women can have it all or that you should have it all. I am not here to say that you need to chase being a wife and mother and find an amazing career and stay healthy and not eat seed oils and be engaged in politics and. That is really not reasonable. That's not the point. No one, neither men nor women, can ever have it all at once. And feminists often say that that is a singularly female issue. And they say, well, women are different because we have to balance everything. Men do as well. My husband's career is different now because he is prioritizing being a father. It's pretty great. In the same way that my career looks different. This idea of having it all was just another lie and fallacy that was presented to women decades ago, although funnily enough, their vision of having it all intentionally excluded motherhood. The woman who coined that term actually said, yeah, that doesn't really fit into my framework, so that was never honest or genuine from the start. It never included actually having it all. We literally can't have it all at one time, but we can have a lot of things. We can have an incredibly rich life and chase many different dreams and have various seasons of our lives where we are prioritizing and focusing on different things as long as we are driven by a strong dedication to our values and as long as we are honest with ourselves about the natural consequences and the trade-offs based on what we are prioritizing in that season of life. Woo! Choosing a career that you hopefully love over young motherhood is a significant trade-off. Just as choosing to be a young stay-at-home mom means that your work opportunities will look different than the people who chose an alternative path and that is okay. I promise you it is okay. My fighting to leave a steady W-2 network job was a major risk, but I did it because it gave me flexibility. Cutting my YouTube show down from when I was once doing 2 episodes a day, 10 episodes a week, to now only doing 2 a week, which I know some people have been angry about. It means that I am cutting myself off, honestly, from making a lot more money. It means that I'm like limiting myself in the YouTube and social media algorithm, but that is worth it so that I can orient my life around our son. And yes, we're having a boy. I'm very excited. And the thing is, some people, a lot of people, will think that's crazy. They might think it's crazy because I am sacrificing parts of a very lucrative career at a very young age when I should be focusing on chasing that bag and building my brand out to be as big as it can be. Or they might think I'm crazy, and they've told me that I'm crazy because I'm not stopping work entirely. My point in saying this is that people will always have something to say about your life and your choices, and it is our job as individuals, especially young people, to learn how to navigate that noise. Because your life and your vision of what it means to have it all and what you want to prioritize and chasing your dreams, it does not need to fit into anyone else's box in order to be worthy. I mean, it doesn't need to look like what I'm choosing. It doesn't need to look like what your mother chose. It does not even need to look like what your best friend who is sitting next to you right now is choosing. And we have the freedom to make those decisions for ourselves. And so instead of getting online or getting up on stage and beating the drum and telling you that I know exactly what you should do and exactly what will be so productive and happy and healthy for you, and shame you for not being perfect and fitting into my worldview, I would rather give you the resources and the courage that you need to make healthy and happy and positive good decisions for your individual lives and your individual circumstances. And I hope that I can encourage you to know that most likely, you will not end up on one of those extremes. You will most likely also fall somewhere in between these slogans. And obviously that does not mean that I am going to cheer you on if I think that you're making unhealthy decisions or trying to evade the responsibilities of the things that you're prioritizing. I obviously won't do that. But I do know that every single woman is different. Like, I see it every day. I've been on tour for the last couple of months. It has been so much fun. We do, amazing. I'll be back in Dallas actually next week, so we can talk about this more then, if you want to come. But I've been on tour, and we do a meet and greet after every show, and I have had the opportunity to meet such incredible young girls. Young women who, at my age, are stay-at-home moms and already have a couple of kids. Young women who, a young woman just a couple of days ago told me that she had just dropped out of medical school so that she could prioritize finding a job and a career that would offer her flexibility to have the family that she wanted, while still following her passions. I meet women who are dedicated to making a political difference in our world and idolize women like Susie Wilde and Tulsi Gabbard. I meet women who are desperate to be wives and mothers, but are still in a season of singleness, and so they are searching for passion fulfillment in their work as they go through that season. And that's not even touching the surface of the complexities of being a woman and being a young person trying to navigate the world and figure out your place here. All of that is real. All of that is complex. And if nobody has told you lately, all of that is beautiful. And so if anyone out there feels like me, as I did when I was, 15 years old and I was confused and lost and couldn't find my way where I would fit in as a woman, if anyone out there feels like my mom and many women like her who were shamed relentlessly for years for stepping out of line, no matter what side of the issue you're on, or if your life goals simply fall in between the spectrum, the extreme spectrum of womanhood, I don't want you to feel disheartened. I instead want to encourage you to wrestle with these huge ideas and these huge choices and spend time rooting yourself with your values and your principles so that you can build a life that is uniquely yours. Not what you see on social media, not what the think pieces are telling you, not even what I am telling you, but something that you believe is truly good and in line with what you believe to be true. Because at the end of the day, that is literally all that matters. It really is. Your life and your choices and your values are more complex and they go deeper than aesthetics and viral trends and slogans and hashtags and think pieces and what you see in Hollywood movies. I think you guys know that. And no matter how your life turns out, no matter what you choose, no matter what you encounter and overcome, because we're human and we're going to have to overcome a lot in our life, if you are driven by your principles above all else, you will build an incredible, meaningful life, and I can't wait to see it unfold for all of you. So thank you for having me here today. You guys are amazing. I hope you had an amazing time at YWLS. I'll talk to you guys later.